Good morning, everyone. I have a bit of anxious energy flowing around me today, and I'm thinking of just doing an oracle read and seeing what deep advice we can get. And how much of it's attached to Pluto's transit back into Aquarius, and you know that there's a lot of unknown that's about to happen, which is actually a bit exciting. But also at the same time, it's a little bit terrifying because I think those of us in the know things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. So I think it's about bracing ourselves, you know. Bracing ourselves in a transformative way. I haven't even decided what all the decks are I'm going to use yet, except the first one I've got out is the Wandering Soul Oracle. But let's see, we got higher power. So my intuitive messages seeing this card are how important it is through this time to be constantly checking in with ourselves and connecting to, you know, our higher self and higher power, to guide us through this time, to comfort us through this time, to remember that whatever is going to transpire is going to be for the best and highest good of the collective consciousness. And like I said, that's probably going to look really ugly for a bit. But if we can hold ourselves in the space of healing that we've reached, or that we're, you know, keep moving through the healing till we get to a point where we can be somewhat stabilized within ourselves, not so much the world, but within ourselves. That's going to be really important, okay? The more we heal, the easier it is to hear those divine messages, to not disregard synchronicities and signs and things that we might see here. And it's a reminder that signs come in all various ways. They come through other people to teach us things that we might need to know about ourselves, healing ourselves. They come through nature. They come through songs. They come through poetry. They come in so many different ways. So let's see what messages this deck is going to give us. I'm going to pull 3 cards from this deck, and then I'm going to grab another deck and pull 3 cards from it, but I'm just still sitting with which one I'm going to choose. So bottom of the deck energy, burn. So I'm going to get the little book. We got first 3 cards out. We got conceal. So maybe there's some wounds that are being concealed. Maybe you've thrown a band-aid over a problem that needs a bit more than a band-aid. It happens. We have locked away. And with the imagery of the rib cage and what's protected by the rib cage is the breath, is the heart space, is the spine, which has our nerve, like, you know, the nerve stuff, you know. No, I'm not a doctor. So initially what I'm seeing is that there's a band-aid. There's a band-aid over some wounding. And that might be something that needs to be looked at to be able to move forward and tap into that divine language, to tap into your own intuition, to tap into the universal energies, to tap into your healed ancestors. To be able to understand the messaging that's coming through to you. But let's see what the book says, because it will always provide different stuff to what my intuition is saying. So, I will need to go to the menu. Okay, so when I said that maybe a band-aid's been put over something that, you know, maybe needs more than a band-aid, this card is pointing to, you know, when a mistake is made or an error in judgment is revealed or realized, we tend to hide it and cover it up. You know, those band-aids, they're good for paper cuts and, you know, small grazes, but, you know, gaping trauma wounds or, you know, wounds created by unhealed trauma, you know, need a little bit more than a band-aid. In doing this, we give ourselves the false hope that perhaps it didn't really happen. If we ignore it, maybe it will go away and we won't need to face it. We don't talk about with others once the words are spoken. We cannot take them back. What has happened is now there and it is real. By speaking of it, you can say no. You can no longer continue to justify its non-existence in your mind. So you stay quiet and you let the knowledge of it weigh you and your vibrational output down. Others will sense the difference within you and ask what's wrong, and you'll tell them you are fine. You have a truth that is causing you pain, worry, anguish, and hurt. You are denying the truth of it to yourself and to those who care. You know how the truth can set you free, how it can lift the weight of it off your heart. The truth that you are choosing to conceal is hurting you and is therefore hurting the collective. Give what is worrying you a voice and a name. Admit to any wrongdoing and mistakes made. It is time to say the words out loud. Release them into the air that surrounds you and watch as they lose much of their power over you. All right. It's normal to feel shame when you do something wrong. But some of us have been told so many times in our lives that we're wrong in who we are, how we show up, how we were born, all those things. And we carry that shame through our lives. And it's not until we are ready to look at it and say, hang on a second, there's a whole massive shame that isn't even mine that I've been carrying around. But the same is also true when our unhealed trauma and maladaptive coping mechanisms show up and they generate shame. We don't quite know what to do with that. And we often hold ourselves in that place of shame, that we somehow deserve the punishment, deserve to feel horrible, when the reality is that shame is there to point to a wound, and that wound needs your love. That wound needs your care. That wound needs your compassion, and that wound needs your forgiveness. And we all make mistakes. None of us are free from causing harm to anybody else. None of us. And it's okay to own when we do cause harm. It's okay to own that. You show up, you own it, you apologize. You apologize without any expectation, you know? And then you forgive yourself. And part of forgiving ourselves is healing that particular part of ourselves that caused the harm, so that we can move forward, not doing that harm causing anymore. And once you accept that you aren't an island, none of us are islands, that this is something everyone has to deal with. And when people don't deal with it, you end up with the world leaders that we have. So, let's do the work. Okay, locked away. There is an integral part of who you are that you're keeping hidden. You are locking it away and believe that keeping it this way is for the best in everyone around you, including yourself. Unfortunately, you can feel the weight and the tiredness of keeping this crucial facet of yourself hidden. When you hide part of who you are, the puzzle is incomplete. You need to see the worth and the wealth contained in each chapter of who you are as a soul and as a human. In the practice of self-love, of self-compassion, of acceptance, and of being at peace with oneself is needed here. For as long as this part of you remains locked away, there will always be an empty space in your identity, not only for yourself, but for others. Do not deny the world of your true self. You are meant to be seen as a complete person, an intact soul, not one which is censored to make others feel more comfortable. So like I said, there's that part of you that you have locked away. Maybe you've shut down your heart space because pain has overwhelmed you in your life. Maybe it's that you're neurodivergent and you don't know how to process those feelings, right? So it's easier to shut them out, push them down, suppress them, than be overstimulated by them, to be confused by them, to overthink them, all those things. Trauma survivors often disconnect from their bodies, which means not being able to feel their feelings. Or I'll rephrase that. There's certain feelings that we will feel, none of them are good ones. All right? Which brings me to something that I firmly believe in. If we are going to be feeling those dark, heavy feelings, the shame, the fear, the lack of worth, all of those things, you need to balance that and allow yourself to feel the joy, the love, the excitement, the possibilities, because you're already allowing yourself to live in the place that you are most afraid of going to when you open yourself up to those feelings of love, support, care, right? So let's see what the divine message is, and then I'm going to pick from another oracle deck. Okay. Divine language. The golden ratio is a shape and a number sequence that appears all over the universe. Coincidence or something more? Are we being spoken to by a creator being, or is it all by chance? Take the time to think on the big questions that have made us wonder since the beginning of higher consciousness by our early human ancestors. Regardless of what you believe about the golden ratio, it demonstrates a common language that is shared by art, biology, music, architecture, psychology, history, and much more. The golden ratio can be found in artwork by Da Vinci and in nature at the atomic scale. Do you sense and feel how this divine language is being spoken to you or being spoken through you? This is an opportunity to meditate on your place within this universe and the endless possibilities that surround you. It is not about coming up with the answers as to if it is all a coincidence or not. It's about expanding your mind and your thoughts, allowing them to take on new forms and thinking in terms larger than your own sphere of influence. So like I said, you know, we are getting messages consistently from the universe, from our ancestors. We have to be willing to see them, to believe them, to hold space for their existence. Yeah? And like I said, those messages come through in multiple mediums, okay? So I was driving the other day, and I live in far southwest Dora country, which is Sydney for anyone that's not from this part of the world. And but I don't live near any like synagogues or anything like that. Not a huge Jewish community out here. But the other day I was driving, I'd had to drop my son's girlfriend to work, and on my way home, a particular song came on, and I looked up, and the car in front of me was from a Jewish organisation. And I've never ever seen a car from a Jewish organisation out in my part of the world before, to be honest. Like, really, I've never. And I've lived out here for 44 years. But between the song and that vehicle, I was like, I fucking hear you. I hear you. And yeah. I think when you ignore the messages, they come in even stronger. Anyway, let's see what the bottom of the deck energy has to say. I don't know why I shared that little tidbit, but there we go. Okay, so this is a reminder to always be refueling, all right? So we all have this flame that burns in us. We all have it. And it's the flame that keeps us warm. It's the flame that keeps our communities warm in our presence. But if you don't keep fueling this flame, filling your own cup, making sure that you are taking care of you in all the important ways, that flame is going to die out, and there's not going to be that warmth for you to give to your community or to yourself. All right? So it's basically, yeah, saying to keep nurturing this, all right? The flame also, it's like the Ace of Wands, which is you've had like this idea, this creative or passion-driven idea, and you need to nurture that so it can grow. Also think of yourself as that you need to nurture you for you to grow. All right? Okay. I think I'm going to go the Dreamweaver Oracle and see what advice us dreamers of a new world can conjure. What the sunbeams have to show is bottom of the deck energy. What clarity is the sun shining on anything in your life at the moment? What is becoming clearer? Is it shining on what brings you joy? Is it shining on what fulfills you? Because I think that's, you know, especially with trauma, we are often pretty much expert at what harms us, what destabilizes us, but it's learning and finding out what things bring us joy that is so important and is a big part of healing, right? But, you know, asking a trauma survivor, so who are you? What do you like to do? Like, what? It's like speaking a foreign language. So yeah, find out what brings you joy. Okay, 3 cards from this deck. Well, there's one. Ooh, when the storm spirits play. Right. If the river flows this way, and when you're neither here nor there. And I will show you the imagery in a sec. Bottom of the deck energy. Weavers know that all is God. Divine language. Okay, so first we have this card. We've got 2 dogs howling. We've got an elephant. We've got a whale. We've got all the elements here. We've got the stormy face. The eagle. Then we've got if the river flows this way. Very watery card. And whether you're here nor there. Let's see what the book has to say. The essential meaning of this card is understanding how to navigate divine chaos. Okay, so I talked at the start of the reading about that anxious energy I was feeling, about Aquarius moving, Pluto moving into Aquarius and what that's going to look like, and that things are going to get worse before they get better. And that, my friend, is divine chaos. This card also symbolizes clearing the air, stirring the pot, scattering seeds and bringing new possibilities. You're being asked to surrender your need to control outer circumstances. So, this is understanding that there are some things that we ourselves cannot control. We can really only control how we contribute to the greater collective consciousness, right? And we can do activism, and we can protest and shut places down and all that kind of stuff. That's all within our power, right? To a degree, within colonial carceral systems, yeah? But the reality is that there is no certainty as we move forward. It's always unknown how it's going to play out, okay? So it's letting go of the control of needing certainty. It's letting go of the need to avoid confrontation, to be open to change rather than resisting it. The universe is asking, and ancestors are asking us to trust in this chaos, trust in it. Trust in how uncomfortable it is, trust in how heartbreaking it is, trust in how infuriating it is. But this is actually teaching us what is truly necessary for us. What is here to serve our higher good, and what has been holding us back from our higher good. And it's remembering, like, storms come through and they create chaos. They can break branches off. They can, you know, rip off roofs of houses. You know, there's a lot of intensity and strength in a storm. But one other thing that a storm does is it can clear away a lot of that build up that settles when the weather's drier. Yeah, similar to us, there's stuff in us that has settled over time that needs that bit of a shake up to come to the surface to be processed. You know, we just need to stay in the eye of the storm, okay? Practicing grounding techniques, meditating, staying connected to self, those kinds of things. Amazing things will come from the storm. Okay, and for if the river flows this way, the essential meaning for this card is the importance of going with the flow, feeling the sense of being one with the currents of life, trusting you will never drown as your destiny wants you to go this way. So I was talking in the reading the other day about flowing with the energy, trying not to resist the universal energy. The more we resist, the more we are having to learn lessons over and over and over and over and over again. The more we resist, the more we hold ourselves back from being able to experience our full humanness. So yeah, flowing. And flowing doesn't mean that you're never going to feel sad or cry or any of those things. Flowing means allowing yourself to cry when you are guided to cry. It means releasing things when you are guided to. Sometimes you'll be angry and flow with it. Flow with it. Don't resist what wants to come up and be seen. And for when you're neither here nor there, central meaning for this card is the period of time between what was and what you're moving towards. You're not quite there yet, but try and be present for every step of the journey. So, you know, Lydia Thorpe said, you know, there's indigenous people rising up across the world, sick of the colonial bullshit. And as an indigenous person, and I know other members of my communities feel it too, it's that fire is really being fed right now, yeah. But we also know there is so much work to do. So much work to do. And we know that we have to go through a whole other apocalypse, which we have already lived through many times. But there is momentum building, but we're still at that in-between space, right? And it can be disheartening when it feels like it gets a bit stagnant in that in-between space. But it's important to remember that the energy does keep moving and you need to flow with it. But that this is a good space when you're in that in-between space. It's a good time to self-evaluate. Okay, what is there in my life that is not serving my higher good? How do I cut ties with that? How do I transform that into something that does serve my higher good? Just thinking about the placement of these cards, and you know, I'm feeling, again, we talk about that shame that we try and conceal with band-aids that are just, they don't cut it, right? So the storm comes in. The storm or the tower, whatever, comes in, creates chaos, rips those band-aids off, rips them off. And really is there to work with your highest good to clear what you don't need to be holding on to. And then with the locked away and having, if the river flows this way, it's about, you know, you having locked away some really important parts of yourself. And often that's our emotional body, and it needs to flow like a river. It needs to flow like a river. And then with the divine language, when you're neither here nor there, that's the most important time to be tapping into that divine language, to be trusting in that divine language. Anyway, I hope that this reading was understandable. Feel free to leave comments, likes, share, whatever. But I will see you next time.